Poverty in Lagos hangs like smoke in the air. A girl opens an empty fridge and hears it whisper her name. 17. Hungry. Desperate. With a sick father and 6 starving siblings, she's offered a gift. 6 glowing fish that bring fortune to her and ruin to everyone else. She was warned. Never eat them. Never skip a market day. Never tell a soul. But in a city built on secrets, what she took must be paid for. This is not just a tale of hunger. It's the story of how a girl fed her family and burned her name into legend. The evil seller of a Johnny market began with a whisper. The first time F saw the fish blink at her, she thought it was a dream. But dreams don't leave cold air on your fingers or whisper your name when no one else is around. That morning had started like all the others, with hunger. Not the kind of hunger that makes your stomach growl. Kind that makes your ears ring, your knees shake, and your mind forget how to count. 17-year-old F stood in front of their broken fridge in a cramped one-room apartment in New Lagos, staring into a nearly empty shelf. 1 onion. Half a spoon of rice. A bottle of pepper water. She opened the fridge. Closed it. Opened it again. Cold made her fingers ache, but she kept staring. As if somehow food would appear just because she needed it that badly. Behind her, a cough came from the mattress on the floor. F, have you eaten? It was her father. Once a strong man who fixed generators and light poles across the city. Now his voice was thin like paper. Stroke had stolen his strength, bent his left arm and leg, and left his mouth twisted on one side. Till he tried to smile. Turned around quickly. Yes, Papa. I already ate. Lie number 1 of the day. She walked over, pulled the thin bedsheet up to his chest, and forced a smile. I'll get food soon. I promise. He nodded slowly. His eyes looked tired, like someone searching for something that wasn't there. Behind a torn curtain, her 6 younger siblings lay on mats and pieces of foam, twisted in sleep, their ribs showing through their thin shirts. All asleep. All hungry. The air smelled of kerosene, sweat, and the wet walls of their old apartment. Rats moved in the ceiling. The fridge hummed like a dying mosquito. Didn't have time to cry. Crying was a luxury. She wrapped her brown scarf tighter, stepped into her dusty slippers, and walked out into the chaos of the city. New Lagos was loud. Buses shouted. Kiki drivers cursed. Church speakers blasted morning prayers beside barbershops still shut from the night before. F moved quickly, avoiding puddles, sidestepping beggars, ignoring the calls from men who said "fine girl" as if it was her name. She reached a Johnny market, a wild mix of sound and color. Tomatoes stacked like pyramids. Meat hanging from iron hooks. People shouting prices, arguing, laughing. But F wasn't here to shop. She was here to beg. Stall 17, her mother sat under an old umbrella, her vegetables drying in the sun. Nothing was selling. Mama. Her mother looked up. Her eyes were red from crying or maybe from dust. F. You came. I came to help. Lie number 2. She was here because they had no food and she hoped maybe, just maybe, her mother had one good sale. But the basket was still full. Tomatoes too soft. Peppers already turning black. Her mother shook her head. The market has changed, F. Nobody buys from me anymore. Why? Because of the new woman selling fish across the road. People say her food tastes better, stays fresh longer. Even her smell pulls customers like a magnet. Turned and looked. A woman with gold earrings and a loud voice stood behind a glass box, her fish glittering like silver coins. Maybe I can ask around, F said, already knowing it was useless. No, don't beg. Just help me pack. We'll try again tomorrow. Tomorrow. That magical word. The one poor people say when they have nothing today. Later that evening it rained. Not the kind that passes in minutes, but a heavy, angry storm that slammed rooftops and pushed street boys under kiosks. Had no umbrella. She walked home, soaked to her skin, sandals flapping in the mud. At Old Shrine Road, where buses refused to stop and stories said a ghost lived in the gutter, F stopped. A woman was standing there. She wore a red wrapper. No umbrella. No shoes. And her skin looked like old tree bark, wrinkled and dry. Yet she didn't shiver. "Child," the woman said without turning. F froze. "Me. You're hungry. But your hunger is not only for food." The rain stopped. Just like that. In one breath. F looked around. Not a single drop. Only stillness. "Who are you?" The woman finally turned. Her eyes were white. No pupils. No iris. Just white. "You want help?" she asked. F hesitated. "What kind of help?" "Follow me." They walked behind the broken shops. Behind the mosque. Behind the compound where goats lived like kings. Past the fence with no gate. Until they reached a narrow alley, too small for a grown man to walk straight. Smelled like burnt oil and bitter leaf. The end of the alley stood a wooden door with carvings of fish, baskets, and eyes. The woman knocked once. The door creaked open. Inside was a room glowing with blue light. In the center sat a man covered in chalk, his entire body white, his eyes like two small fires. He wore a necklace made of bones. "You brought her," the man said to the woman. "Good." Then to F, "Come forward, child." F stepped forward, her heart pounding like drumbeats. "I am Baba Yeel," the man said. "Seer of fortune. Keeper of what is borrowed and stolen." "I didn't steal anything," F said quickly. "Not yet." His voice echoed. He reached beside him and pulled out a small silver icebox. When he opened it, F gasped. Inside were 6 fish, glowing softly like they were made of moonlight. They blinked, real blinks. Not twitching. Real. "These fish," Baba Yeel said, "carry favor. Luck. Prosperity. If you sell them, the people who eat them will lose those things. And you will gain them." I've stepped back. "That sounds evil." "Is survival evil?" "I don't want anyone to suffer." "You already suffer. Every day." "For what?" She didn't answer. "You will sell them," Baba Yeel continued, "1 fish per day. Only at market. Never eat them. Never skip a day. And never, never tell anyone where they came from." I've swallowed. "What happens if I break the rule?" The room turned darker. "Then all you took will return and more." Baba Yeel closed the box. "Do you accept?" The thought of her siblings' faces. Her father's weak eyes. Her mother's shaking hands. She nodded. "I accept." The old woman smiled. "Then your days of hunger are over." The next morning, F didn't go to her mother's stall. She went to a quiet corner near the market toilets, laid out a small table, and placed the fish in a bowl of ice. People didn't even ask questions. They just came. "Aw, fine fish." "How much, sister?" "This one still smells like ocean breeze." The first buyer was a woman with a gold necklace. The second, a banker with polished shoes. The third, a mother with a baby on her back. By the time F sold the 6th fish, she had 25,000 naira in her hand. More than her mother had made in 3 months. She walked home that day with rice, yam, eggs, plantain, and even toothpaste. Her siblings screamed with joy. Her mother cried. "Where did you get all this?" F smiled. Line number 3. "Someone gave me a loan." She never told them about Baba Yeel, or the fish that blinked. But that night, she had a dream. She was in the market. Only this time it was upside down. Fish flew in the sky. People walked backward. And the woman with the gold necklace was there. She was crying. Her clothes were torn. Her skin was covered in black spots. Flies followed her, and everyone she touched stepped away. "Why did you give it to me?" the woman shouted. Woke up screaming. Her room was dark. The fridge was humming, and the air smelled like salt and smoke. On the floor, the icebox glowed faintly, and from inside, a single fish blinked. By the end of the first week, F's name was known across the Johnny Market. They didn't know her story, or where she lived, or what pain she carried in her chest. All they knew was her fish, and how it tasted like blessings. "Fish waste smell like Sunday morning," one man shouted. "Clean, no bone, no walla," said another. She never shouted like other sellers. She didn't chase customers or beg them to buy. She didn't need to. Her fish spoke for her. And they were always 6. Never 5. Never 7. Just 6, lying in a bowl of ice, eyes wide open, silver skin shining like new coins. People lined up. Sometimes they fought. One woman offered to pay double. Another pushed someone out of line. But F stayed calm, always smiling, always polite. She had learned the first rule of the street. When you're winning, pretend like you expected it. At night, when her siblings were asleep, F would quietly open the small silver box in their kitchen corner. The fish would be there again. 6 of them. Fresh. Cold. Almost glowing. She didn't ask how. She didn't want to. All she did was whisper thank you to the box, take them out before sunrise, and walk to the market before the other sellers arrived. The box never needed electricity. It never melted. Not even during the blackout that lasted 2 full days. That was the first time she noticed how the walls near the box started to sweat, even though the air was dry. The second time, she swore she heard a voice whisper, "More, more." F was no longer the girl with holes in her slippers. Now she wore flat shoes with flower designs. Her scarf was clean and ironed. Her hands smelled of sweet soap, not fish water. She paid 3 months' rent in advance. She bought her brother a new school uniform and her sister a birthday cake with real icing. Even her mother smiled again. The vegetables started selling better. People said it was because of the good spirit in the family. F never corrected them. She just nodded and said, "Amen." But every night the dreams returned. Only now they were stranger. One night she saw the woman with the gold necklace again, her lips sewn shut, her eyes bleeding tears, crawling on her knees in the middle of the market. The next night she saw a small child in school uniform crying beside a dry river, holding a fishbone. The worst was the dream of herself, standing on top of a basket that spun like a wheel while voices screamed from underneath, "Give it back! Give it back!" She woke up panting, sweating, but rich. So she kept selling. 3 weeks later, the other fish sellers began to complain. "Something is not right with that girl," one man said, spitting near her table. "She never buys from the cold room," another said. "But her fish stay fresher than ours?" One morning, an old woman walked past her stall and paused. She didn't buy anything, just stared at the fish. Then she whispered, "These fish don't come from water." Blinked. "Sorry, Ma." The woman walked away. From that day, more strange things began to happen. Cats gathered near her stall, not 1 or 2, but 5, 6, 7 at a time, just sitting there staring. Flies avoided her fish completely. A small child once pointed at her bowl and said, "Mummy, the fish is watching me." Till people came. Because no matter how strange it felt, the fish tasted too good to ignore. One Sunday afternoon, F received a letter under their door. No name. Just a note written in tight, sharp handwriting. "Come to the address on the back. Bring nothing but truth." She turned the paper over. It was a street deep in Old Town, a place people said was cursed since the train crash of 1986. Nobody lived there anymore. Not since the flood that drowned 300 people. She threw the paper away. The next morning, there was another note on her stall. Ignoring won't stop what's coming. She didn't sleep that night. And when she opened the box at 4 a.m. the next morning, the fish were there again. But one of them had human eyes. On Thursday, a journalist came to the market. Young, confident, holding a camera and wearing a press badge. He stopped at her stall. "Hello," he said. "I'm doing a story on the fastest-growing sellers in a Johnny market. Your name came up. Mind if I ask a few questions?" The smiled politely. "I'm not really a talker." "Your fish is legendary," he said. "People say it never goes bad, never smells. Is that some family recipe?" She forced a laugh. "I guess I'm just lucky." He leaned in. "Is it true your fish glows at night?" Her smile dropped. "Who told you that?" He paused. "I have eyes too, Miss F." She looked around the market. Suddenly, everyone felt like a spy. "Sorry," she said. "No interview." "Suit yourself," he replied, backing away. "Just know secrets don't last in this city." That night, F came home and found her mother sitting alone, staring at the wall. "Mama," she asked gently. Her mother didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "F, are you doing Yahoo?" F laughed nervously. "What?" "Tell me the truth. Nobody makes this kind of money from just selling fish." "Mama." "I'm not angry," she interrupted. "I'm just scared." F paused. Her heart thudded. Then she whispered, "I'm just lucky." Line number 4. Her mother sighed. "God, please protect my daughter." Turned her face away. She didn't want her mother to see the tears building in her eyes. On Saturday morning, the crowd was thick. One of her regular buyers came back, a tall woman with tired eyes and dry skin. F recognized her. It was the first person who ever bought from her, the woman with the gold necklace. But the necklace was gone. Her clothes were torn. Her hands shook. She didn't ask for fish. She just stared. Then she dropped to her knees in front of the stall. "You did this to me." People turned. "What's happening? Is she okay?" F stepped back. "Madam, I don't know you." "Liar," the woman screamed. "You gave me cursed food. You took everything from me." A man pulled her away. A few laughed. Some looked scared. But the woman's eyes burned as she pointed at the ice bowl. "They're alive," she said. "And they'll eat you too." Then she ran. Couldn't move for 10 minutes. Even after the crowd left. Even after the sun began to set. Even after she packed her stall and walked home in silence. That night, F couldn't sleep. She sat beside the icebox and stared at it for hours. And when the electricity went off, it still glowed faintly. A red light, not blue. She reached out slowly, opened the lid. Inside, the 6 fish were stacked neatly. But this time they were breathing. Their mouths opened and closed. Their gills flapped. And from one of them, she heard the whisper again. "More. More. More." Slammed the lid shut. Ran to the bathroom. And vomited. The next morning, she dressed up again. Tied her scarf. Took the icebox. And walked back to a Johnny market. 'Cause despite everything, the dreams, the eyes, the voices, the warnings, the money was real. And after a life of hunger, it was too late to stop now. It was a Tuesday morning when everything began to break. The market buzzed like usual, people shouting, wrappers flapping, metal trays clanging on concrete. But to F, the world felt quiet. Too quiet. Even the flies avoided her table now. Her fish, 6 of them, perfect as always, shimmered in the bowl of untouched ice. Yet for the first time F felt watched. She tried to focus on peeling onions beside her stall, a trick she used to look busy. But her fingers wouldn't stop trembling. She looked up, and that's when she saw him. A man standing at the far end of the market road. Old, thin, wearing a black cap and holding a twisted wooden cane. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He just stared at her. First, she thought he was just another customer, so she smiled politely and waved. He didn't wave back. He began to walk toward her, slow and careful, like the ground beneath him was dangerous. And as he reached her table, he didn't look at the fish. He looked straight into her eyes. Then he said, softly, almost like a prayer, "The fish are not yours." F froze. "What did you say?" He leaned in. His breath smelled like dust and matches. "Everything you take must return. Even favor. Even fortune. Nothing is free." Stepped back, confused. "Sir, do you want to buy or not?" The man turned, tapped his cane once on the ground and walked away. Blinked. When she looked again, he was gone. The next morning, F took her usual route to the market. Icebox balanced in her small handcart, scarf tied tight, confidence layered like makeup. Only when she arrived, her second stall, the one she had secretly paid for beside the bottled water cellar, was gone. Not just empty. Gone. As if it had never been there. No table. No sign. Not even the blue paint she had used to write F's fresh catch. She asked the neighbor seller. He looked confused. "Which stall?" "Here. Yesterday, right beside you. My table." "There was never anything there," he said, laughing. Checked her phone. She had photos. She opened her gallery. But the pictures were blank. Every photo of that stall was just an empty patch of road. She stared at her screen, cold washing over her neck. A message appeared. "You took what wasn't yours." The number was hidden. That evening, F found a folded paper under her door. No handwriting. Just printed text in red ink. "Confess before the basket blows open." She tore it up. The next morning, another note. "We are watching. The eyes in the ice see everything." By Friday, she stopped opening the notes. She just threw them away, but her hands would shake every time she touched the paper. The worst was Sunday. A note taped to her bedroom wall. She never heard anyone enter. The note said, "Your luck is stolen. The return will be fire." Her dreams turned worse. She no longer dreamed of fish or crying women. Now she dreamed of herself standing inside fire, but the fire didn't burn. It whispered. Voices from the flame said things like, "Don't lie. Return the gift. The box has opened. You just haven't seen it yet." One night, she woke to find herself sleepwalking, standing in the living room, barefoot, holding the icebox in her arms. She didn't remember leaving bed. The box was warm. The fish inside blinked in perfect rhythm, left to right, all six. She dropped the box and screamed. No one woke up. Her youngest brother, Toju, started coughing. It began as a small cough, then a deep, chesty one. They went to the clinic. The doctor said nothing was wrong. No fever. No infection. The lungs are clear. "But he can't sleep," F said. "He says his chest is hot." The doctor gave her syrup. It didn't help. Toju began to mumble in his sleep, saying things like, "The fish are angry. She lied. She lied." Cried in the bathroom that night. It was the first time in months. She had money now. Enough to buy medicine, fans, shoes. But no peace. The market didn't feel safe anymore. She began to see the man with the cane everywhere. At the corner of the street. Cross the road while she crossed traffic. Once, reflected in a window behind her as she tried on a new dress. Every time she turned to look, he was gone. Her customers still came. Till smiled. Till paid double. But she began to hate their faces. One woman said, "You're so blessed, F." And F nearly screamed. That night, her mother found her sitting in the dark, rocking slowly, her scarf soaked in sweat. "F, talk to me," Mama said. "Do you think some riches are curses in disguise?" Fast. Her mother frowned. "Why would you say that?" F shook her head. "No reason." Line number 5. She tried to find the alley again. The one Baba Yeel had come from. She walked behind the shops, past the cracked wall, through the goat compound. But the alley was gone. No carvings. No wooden door. Just an old wall filled with lizards and graffiti. She screamed in frustration. An old man nearby looked at her. "You looking for something that used to be there?" he asked. "Yes." He shrugged. "Many things used to be there. The road changes when it wants to hide." F walked home with a tight chest. Even the way back felt longer than before. One night, while lifting the lid of the icebox to prepare for market, she gasped. The ice was no longer clear. It was red. Thick. Like blood. The fish floated in it, mouths open. Till alive. Till glowing. She touched one and it felt hot. She screamed and dropped the box. The fish fell onto the floor and slithered. Not flopped. Slithered. Like eels. One crawled up the wall and blinked. She grabbed a broom and beat it down, breathless, panicked. When her mother ran in, the floor was clean. The fish were back in the box. And the ice was clear again. "F, are you okay?" Yes. Just tired." Line number 6. But didn't go to the market the next morning. She locked the box in the storage cabinet. Told herself it was over. She'd return the money. Apologize to everyone. Start over. Maybe even confess to a pastor. But that evening, Toju collapsed. He screamed, fell on the floor, and shook. They rushed him to the hospital. The doctor was confused. No fever. No seizure. His body just collapsed. They gave him oxygen. Came home crying. And the note was waiting for her. Never skip a market day. She ran to the storage cabinet. In the box. The fish were floating again. Glowing brighter than ever. She packed them. And went back to the market. Saturday. The man with the cane returned. This time he didn't speak. He placed a single black fish scale on her table. Sizzled when it touched the wood. Then he walked away. Didn't sleep that night. Because now the box didn't hum anymore. It breathed. Woke to the sound of fire in her dream. Crackling. Hissing. The sound of something precious turning to ash. But when she opened her eyes, everything was still. Quiet. Too quiet. She walked into the kitchen, expecting to see the usual, a glowing icebox breathing softly in its corner. But this morning, it wasn't glowing. It was screaming. Not with sound, but with heat. A low red pulse blinked from under the lid like a heartbeat made of flame. The box throbbed. The walls near it steamed. The linoleum floor had begun to melt around its feet. Didn't touch it. She just sat on the floor and stared. And the longer she stared, the more she felt like it was staring back. She didn't go to the market. For the first time since Baba Yeel's deal, F stayed home. She told herself it was a test. A break. A small act of rebellion. She cooked instead. Cleaned the ceiling fan. Played a game with her little brother. Toju was still weak, but he smiled that day. "Today feels better," he whispered. And F thought for just a second, maybe the curse is losing power. Maybe she could outwait it. Maybe she could win. But by nightfall she knew the truth. Because the air in the house turned hot. Not the heat of weather. The heat of warning. and the fridge began to drip red water. 2:03 a.m., her mother screamed. Ran out of bed, heart racing. Toju had collapsed again. This time, he wasn't breathing. His lips had turned blue. Panicked. She ran into the street barefoot, shouting for help, banging on doors. A man drove them to the hospital. Doctors rushed. Machines beeped. Prayers were whispered. And when Toju finally gasped for breath, the nurse pulled F aside. "What happened to him?" the nurse asked. I don't know. He just fainted." The nurse stared hard at her. "His blood is strange. Like it's missing something." "Missing what?" The nurse shook her head. "I don't know. Like luck." When they returned home, the house felt different. Like it was watching them. The icebox sat silent in the kitchen. Steam leaked from the corners. They stood in front of it for a long time. And then she screamed. "What do you want from me?" The lid of the box opened by itself. The fish inside were not fish anymore. Their scales had turned black. Their eyes were fully human. One of them smiled. And the whisper came again, louder than ever. "We fed you. Now feed us." Slammed the lid shut. But her hands had already blistered from the heat. She went to the community elders the next day, wearing plain clothes. No scarf. No makeup. Just fear. "I need help," she said. "Something is wrong with my fish, with my house." They listened. Until she said, "I got them from a seer." Then their faces changed. One elder stood up. "You mean Baba Yeel?" His eyes widened. "You know him?" He nodded slowly. "He's not a seer. He's a collector." "A collector of what?" "Debt." The room went quiet. Another elder said, "Many years ago, someone else made a deal like yours. She had wealth, power, fame. Then her house burned. Her face melted. She was found singing lullabies in a gutter." F whispered, "What do I do?" The oldest woman among them spoke, voice like a broom against stone. "You must return what you stole." "But I didn't steal anything." "You sold what wasn't yours. Took what belonged to others." "I was hungry." "And now," the woman said, "you are full of fire." She begged the elders to help her destroy the box. They refused. "No one can destroy what they didn't create," they said. So she went to a church, then another, then a herbalist. Each time the answer was the same. "We can't touch it." One pastor tried. He laid hands on the box. He screamed and passed out. They poured water on him. When he woke up, he couldn't remember his name for 3 days. Tried burying the box. It reappeared in her kitchen. She tried giving it away. It followed her home. Once she left it at the dump. It showed up in her bed. The night before everything ended, Toju called her close. His voice was weak. He could barely open his eyes. "F," he whispered, "the fish talk in my dreams." She swallowed. "I know, Toju. I'm sorry. They say they want to go back." "Back where?" He coughed. His breath rattled. "To the water or to the fire." "Not here." Then he closed his eyes and slept. Held his hand all night. She didn't blink. Not even once. 6:45 a.m., F carried the icebox to the center of a Johnny market. She didn't hide it. She didn't whisper. She walked through the crowd like a woman marching toward judgment. People saw her. They pointed. "Is that the fish seller? What's that in the box?" "She looks mad." She reached the fountain in the middle of the market, climbed the small step, set the box down, and opened it. The fish didn't swim out. They leapt, one by one, glowing red, eyes burning, mouths open. They hit the ground and screamed. Not like fish. Like humans. She stole us, one shouted. She fed us your fate, another hissed. People screamed. Ran. Some fainted. Others vomited. And then, the fish exploded. Boom. Fire covered the fountain. The box caught flame. And F fell backward, laughing like thunder. Not joy. Not madness. Relief. By the time fire trucks came, F's stall had melted. Her basket turned to ash. And the icebox disappeared completely. She sat on the ground, laughing. Her scarf burned. Her eyes blank. She didn't speak a full sentence again. She just hummed. Over and over. A tune no one knew. Years later, when the rain fell too hard and market children shivered under tin sheds, they whispered her name like a ghost story. F, the evil fish seller. Some said she still walked barefoot through a Johnny market at night, humming tunes no one remembered. Others swore they saw her reflection in puddles, even when she wasn't there. But everyone agreed on one thing. Her story was real. A Johnny market was rebuilt, but never the same. The fountain where she opened the cursed box was cemented over. Fish sellers stopped working in that section. They called it the dead spot. And no one ever sold ice boxes again. Even years later, mothers would pull their children close and say, "Don't cheat or you'll end up like F." Teen boys laughed at the tale, calling it fake. Until one of them claimed to find a silver fish scale in his backpack and screamed for 2 days straight. People moved on. But her name never left. F never returned to her old home. After the fire, her family was evicted. The landlord said, "Bad spirits are bad for rent." Her siblings were scattered, some sent to relatives, others to boarding homes. Her mother stopped speaking. Only Toji remained, eyes always watching the sky as if waiting for the fish to fall back down. And F? She walked. That's all. Walked from street to street, barefoot, brown scarf tied around her wrists like a leash. She didn't beg. She didn't speak. She just watched. Sometimes she smiled. And when she did, people crossed the road. One rainy evening, a girl named Omalicha, no older than 7, saw F under the bridge near Apata Junction. The girl had no umbrella. Her school bag was soaked. But F held out her scarf, wrapped it around the child, and whispered something. Omalicha didn't understand it then. Years later, she remembered. It was one word, return. And when Omalicha grew older and ran a street food stall, she never kept more than she needed. Never stepped on others to climb. Never forgot the woman who gave her warmth without asking for anything. Over time, new legends were born, of oil that healed, shoes that ran on air, food that made people forget. But none ever lasted. None stuck like F. Because her story wasn't about magic. It was about price. About what happens when you take blessings not meant for you. 10 years after the fire, the city built a new mall. They broke down the back part of a Johnny market, flattened it for progress. But when workers tried to dig up the old stall site, the machines failed. 3 times. Bulldozers died. Jackhammers cracked. One man fainted just touching the ground. So they built around it. Left a square of untouched concrete in the middle of polished floors. People walk past it now. They don't know why it's there. But janitors say, at night, if you walk too close, you hear humming, and cold air seeps out of nowhere. In the story's quietest corner, where the fable turns to warning, a boy named Ikechukwu once wandered into a broken warehouse behind the old shrine road. He was chasing a stray cat. But what he found was a silver box. Small. Closed. Humming faintly. He touched it. The lid jumped. A whisper floated into his ear. Hungry? And as he reached for the latch, he heard a laugh, soft, womanly, familiar. He turned. No one was there. He ran home. He never told anyone. But he stopped stealing after that. Started sweeping his mother's shop instead. Started praying before meals. Started dreaming of oceans filled with blinking eyes. Some say the story is superstition. Some say it was all mental illness. Some say Baba Yil never existed. But the elders still nod when you ask them about F. They say, greed can dress like kindness. Hunger can turn into fire. And favor must never be stolen. They pause. Then add, if your blessing smells too sweet, ask who paid the price. F's name is no longer on any government file. No ID card. No tax form. Not even a grave. But every child in New Lagos knows her. They point to alleyways and whisper, that's where she got the fish. They eat carefully. They say thank you more often. They share their sweets even when it hurts. Because no one wants to be like the girl who sold 6 glowing fish and bought a curse with their joy.